Hello everyone, welcome to Helix Plays Games. My name is Richie and joining me this week is at CyberChris2077, Mr. Chris.
Starfield looks so good.
It does, but is it only going to be in 30 frames per second? You'll find out because we've got a great show lined up for you this week. We'll be discussing the update, a recap of the Ubisoft Forward, at least in part because we're split between this show and talking the PS. So if there's a game that you wanted us to talk about and it's not here today, wait till tomorrow or become a member for the little 99p. Which you can get talking PS immediately. And Starfield is reported to only be 30 frames per second. And the Xbox One, is it finally dead? All that and much, much more on this week's XPass. But before we get into it, make sure if you haven't already, you subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications turned on, so you're kept in the loop of all our great content here at Helix Plays Games, such as our other podcasts, Talking the PS every single Tuesday. We break down all the Sony news that's happening for you in the gaming sphere over on the blue side of gaming, where we'll be also talking about the Ubisoft Forward recap as we are in this show. The first Wednesday of every month, we bring you Luna Listening, our Amazon Luna-based podcast. So whatever Amazon's up to in terms of gaming, that'll be over on Luna Listening every single first Wednesday of every single month. We also have our live streams where we've done quite a lot recently of like showcase coverage, but this week, I'm not going to go into detail about it here because we talk about it on Talking the PS, but this week, just gone, I played the Final Fantasy 16 demo. So if you're interested in that, go watch the live stream. Go watch Talking the PS.
It might come to Xbox One day.
Maybe.
Whatever these exclusive deals Sony somehow land with Square Enix, one day we will get... Maybe it's the remaster. You know, when we talk about all the Persona reloaded versions coming, and we're like, oh, yeah, they're finally here, and they've got some kind of awesome Game Pass deal where bang, 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 they're all coming to Xbox. And we've not mentioned it yet, but I think the Persona Tactica is apparently still an Xbox exclusive. It's not been confirmed for PlayStation yet, and no party's saying otherwise. So maybe in a few years' time, Richie will get like a full remaster of a collection of Final Fantasy titles, and it'll all be coming to Xbox Game Pass day one. But we'll have to wait to find out.
There's news about that in the show, actually. Phil Spencer's been talking, but we'll get into that in a bit. Chris, been playing anything interesting?
I have finished Jedi Survivor. I have the Platinum Trophy. I am, in fact, a Jedi Survivor. And,
you survived then?
Yeah. Other than that, I'm on the cusp. Think I've got like half an hour left in Planet of Lana. I've been chipping away on my Razer Kishi with a phone. I got a new phone, actually. I got a Samsung S23 Ultra.
Very nice.
This, alongside either the Kishi or the Backbone. Who needs a Nintendo Switch? That's all I'm going to say. If you need it for exclusives, that's fair. But when I'm sat here playing with this, I was looking at Jedi Survivor and Planet of Lana, and I've sent it to my wife. Like, just look how gorgeous, because this screen's beautiful on this Ultra, as you can imagine. It's a super Samsung AMOLED 6.7 inch whatever, so it's phenomenal. And yes, I'm about to finish Planet of Lana, finished Jedi Survivor, and now I wanted to use this show to essentially ask the audience what I should play next. I've got an entire Game Pass library, got an entire PlayStation Plus library. We'll probably talk about it a bit throughout the show. But yeah, I'm kind of at the whims of like where to go and what to play next. So
if you have a game that you want Chris to play next, let us know in the comments of the video. Head over to our Discord or tweet at him at CyberChris2077 or at Helix Plays Games and tell him what you should be playing next and why. Be interested to hear from you. But yeah, as talking about Switch, well, the advantage of Switch has over your phone is I'm about to do a lot of travelling. I'm going to spend a lot of time in the airports. I don't want to use my phone for gaming in that situation because I want to have my phone as a utility device so I know where I am, know what I'm doing. I've got all my tickets and stuff for my flights and stuff. Like, I don't want to be burning through my battery when I'm sat there for 4 hours on a layover.
Do you travel with a battery pack?
Yes.
Just out of interest. You do. So do I. Good. So it's a safe bet you need by today's world standards.
Oh, absolutely. But I also still don't want to push my luck. So a Switch, a dedicated device, this is where it really comes into its for. So I'm definitely taking my Switch, but it's a good job I've got Zelda to play.
Yeah, oh yeah, you've got many, many hours left to go on that one.
Yeah. I mean, Chris, we do have a bit of a stack show here. Oh, I've been playing Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7 remake. Go watch and talk to the PS because talk a bit more about it over there. Chris, we've got a stack show. Would you like to introduce us to
the excellently exuberant excavated Xbox expose, aka the news?
The news, and as always, our news is brought to you by our Helix Heroes, where you can become a member for as little as 99p, which gives you early access to shows such as Talking to PS. Probably not for the 8th time I've mentioned it so far this show, but go watch
stop talking about the PS.
Well, it's because I keep referencing stuff that we talk about tomorroon.
I mean, it is a great show.
It is a great show.
52 episodes. Go check it out.
Yeah, one whole year. Congratulations, Talking to PS. We did good. And it gives you early access to shows, Talking to PS, Lunar Listening when it comes out, custom emojis, and much, much more. First topic of the week, Chris, Ubisoft Forward.
Yeah, we missed out on this one last week, so we recorded last week's XPass straight after the showcase, late into the night, to make sure we had it covered. But then, by proxy of that, our schedules didn't allow for us to cover Ubisoft in the same light. So obviously, the news has been out there. We've had kind of a week to sit on it now, pretty much a week today. And I guess I want to just look into the games a little bit more. Tomorrow on aforementioned show, we'll go into like Star Wars Outlaws. We'll go into, I can't remember now. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Yeah. Which Ubisoft titles aside from those two stood out for you? Obviously, all coming to Xbox.
Yeah, they're all coming to Xbox. What I'll do is I'll read through what shows we saw. We do give impressions in the showcase as we're watching it. So then we'll pick 2 or 3 jump out ones that you think might be interesting to talk about. Yep. So the show consisted of Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, X-Defy, which we won't be talking about today, X-Defiant, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Captain Laserhawk, a Blood Dragon remix, which isn't a game, so that's off the table as well. The Division Resurgence, Skull and Bones, Roller Champions X Jet Set Radio, Riders Republic Skateboarding, The Crew Motorfest, Assassin's Creed Nexus VR, Assassin's Creed Codename Jade, Assassin's Creed Mirage, and Star Wars Outlaws, which we talk about on the other show. Yeah,
I guess it's a good point now to maybe compare all the shows as well. So we've had the summer of not E3 is finished, and we've seen showcases from many, many people. Where do you feel like they all land in terms of rankings of showcases?
For me,
did Xbox come out on top?
Xbox wins, both in terms of production and game shown. I think Xbox wins. I think PlayStation did a good job if you're into games as a service, but didn't show me the stuff that I personally wanted to see. I don't think it was a bad showcase. It's just I was left going, you didn't really talk about the games I was interested in.
Yeah.
Ubisoft for me was a bad showcase full of good games, if that makes sense. I think the production wasn't great. The way they presented it wasn't great. It kind of had a very weird tempo to it where they showed CGI trailer or gameplay footage of a game. Someone would come out on stage and talk a bit for probably longer than they needed to about the game before sometimes they showed another trailer for the same game. And I felt like sometimes they're spending a lot of time on the game, whereas like after I saw the first trailer, I was like, I don't need no more. So yeah, but there was good games in there.
Absolutely, I think similar. Just to echo that, I think the Xbox One won hands down in terms of, as you said, just games shown off and the Starfield Direct accompanying it, keeping it to its own separate thing. But just overall, the polish, the finish, the games. Fantastic. I think the Ubisoft one probably would have been received better if they didn't have those talking points in between. They tidied it up a little bit.
Half the length without cutting any important content.
And I think a lot of criticism comes in across the board is for just the dates, and I understand why they don't put dates on things now because of the way development is and how long video games take to make. But pretty much all we saw was the year like 2024, early 2024, late 2024, and the annoying thing with the Ubisoft one in particular that bugged me was it was just more of an announcement of betas. It was like, oh, we're here to talk about X-Defiant a little bit. There's another beta coming. We're here to talk about the Division Resurgence. There's a beta coming. Skull and Bones, we're just going to give you a sea shanty this time because we know you're fed up of hearing about it. So we're not even going to talk about the game or show anything new. We're just going to get a bunch of guys. We're just going to tell you guys about this. And then there's a beta, which I think that was the biggest one that bugged me the most, is here's a date for a beta, like later on this summer. And it's like, the game should have been out last November, and you're still going into like beta phase.
There's stuff where they're clearly not confident about what they have, so I think they're adding in extra betas, taking in feedback, reworking the game.
Yeah.
It could be good in a way to get more hands-on, more eyes on it from like what, especially the games as a servicey titles. Like, what do you guys actually want from this sort of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, we saw it worked really well with X-Defiant because, like, the criticism and the feedback they've took, it seemingly now is, from what I've seen from early testers, it's being received really, really well, and it's a fun game. And they've learned a lot from the initial like market. I think they pulled a trailer for X-Defiant. They ditched the Tom Clancy name, so there's a lot of stuff that they were like, oh, they got a bit of a backlash, and they've listened to it and they've understood. But I feel like every other trailer, they came out and said, thanks for your support, thanks for your feedback, thanks for your early testers. He's a beta. It was like, are you actually talking to your consumer audience, or are you talking to your play testers right now? It felt very mismatched with it, and like you said, they kept double dipping on some content, and it was like, just let's get this moving.
I think there's a difference between play testers who are employed by Ubisoft getting hands on the game for giving feedback, where they kind of, they're employed, so they're going to be skewed there, and Bill, who's just a hardcore gamer out in the wild, get his hands on and go, this is terrible.
Shout out to you, Bill.
Yeah, Bill. I don't know why, Bill. I picked Bill.
Bill
if your name's Bill, let us know in the comments and tell me why you hate X-Defiant so much.
But looking at the game of list of what they showed, like Avatar looked great. X-Defiant is apparently super fun. Prince of Persia, we both have a lot more hype than we maybe anticipated for it. Captain Laserhawk, what the hell is that? That should have came out a long, long time ago. It wasn't the right place or time, and they didn't really showcase anything. The Division mobile game looks fun, but still mobile game. No offense, mobile gamers. Skull and Bones, Needless Sea Shanty, Roller Champions and Rise Republic. Cool crossover with Jet Set Radio, old school franchise. And skateboarding in Rise Republic could be amazing.
Yeah,
it's great that they added in.
So in Rise Republic, I was saying before the showcase, because Rise Republic seems like it's just went very quiet since it came out. Like I felt it was one of them games. It needs to be at this showcase to show that Ubisoft is still behind it. It still has life. This is good enough. This is I was expecting maybe an announcement of we've expanded the world or something. Here's another season pass, that sort of stuff. In fact, I think they've done a better thing of going, we're just going to put literally a new extreme sport into the game. It's like, that's one way to do it. That's showing your support. We're literally expanding the game in a very real mechanic sense.
Absolutely. And speaking of mechanics, Crew Motorfest showed off. We knew it was coming. Already announced.
Looks very much just like the next Crew game, which is not a bad thing.
Nope. Leaning into the Forza Horizon. I've seen a lot of people saying it just looks so much like Horizon. It's like, well, it's a racing game at the end of the day. I have racing games, aside from graphical increase, there's only so much you can do with cars. Four wheels, have at it. And then we've got a slew of Assassin's Creed stuff. Nexus VR, Jade, mobile game. Didn't really show much off, to be fair, than like a weird VR trailer and a little clip of it.
I had no interest in Nexus or Jade.
Big focus on Mirage, which we knew were expecting. It's their next game that's due out, right? That we know of. So you've
Assassin's
got
Creed
Mirage in October 21st, I think it is. Then we've got Lost Crown, Prince of Persia, January 18th. Oh, sorry, between that you've got Avatar in December.
Mirage
so you've got those 2 and 1 mixed up. Yeah. And then we got Star Wars Outlaws, which we talk about on tomorrow's show quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the two games, the three big games that came out of this that were not, here's a beta, like it's very much, we're still developing this stuff for Avatar, Star Wars, and Mirage.
Mm-hmm.
I thought all three of them looked incredible.
I did as well.
Mirage, we'll focus on Mirage because we'll talk about Avatar and Star Wars and talk the PS. Mirage, this is kind of what I wanted to see actually from this game. It's like we already kind of know what the setting's going to be. We know it's going to be it's going to be smaller, more condensed. We know it's going to be more of a throwback to an earlier style of Assassin's Creed game. But we hadn't actually seen what that is. So we actually saw gameplay. It was very much more focused on the stealth. It almost had that kind of Shadow of War teleport strike going on as well.
Yeah, they've added some fantasy elements to it.
It looks really fun.
Yeah, it should be said though, this game's a cross-gen game. It's still coming out on PS4 and Xbox One, which we'll talk about in a bit, about the good old Xbox One.
Yeah.
But if you give me an Assassin's Creed game that's maybe 20 to 30 hours perhaps of just story content and a smaller condensed, more enriched world, I'll take it. I'm a huge fan of the new reboot ones, and I'm glad they're not deviating away from that. Like, I cannot wait for Red, like Assassin's Creed in Japan, based on like the style of Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. Cannot wait for that. But if in the meantime you're going to give me a smaller, story-based, more classic Assassin's Creed with the stealth of like Hitman, mixed in with like the lore of Assassin's Creed, set as you said back in the olden days, I'm down for it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Mirage. It's definitely one of my bigger ones for the back end of the year.
Do you think Mirage could influence the direction of Red? Because all we know about Red is it's set in Japan, it's set in feudal Japan, and it is big open world. But in terms of gameplay, they've not committed any direction with it.
I don't think there'll be any, other than maybe a few story threads, I don't think there's going to be any direct interest. And that's because I think Ubisoft want to diverge. I'm
looking more in the game, the way the game plays and feels. No. Because there isn't that much in terms of evolution in gameplay from Odyssey to Valhalla. Changed up weapons a bit. They got the reoccurrence of like the wrist blade and stuff, but all three games effectively more action side. You can stealth, but stealth, it never felt like if you failed your stealth that you were under that much. There was that much consequence to it. Where Mirage very much feels like if you try stealth and you fail, you're going to be in for a hard time.
Yeah. But this is what I expect them to diverge, though. I think Mirage is going to be their classic Assassin's Creed story. Then you are going to have your mobile divisions, which are going anywhere. But then the reality is the main RPGs. Like, remember, Valhalla brought in Ubisoft over $1 billion. So they're not going to deviate from that too much. Like, Mirage will be a good placeholder. Red is going to be the next big, massive open world one, a la The Witcher. And then we already know they've announced Hex, which is going to be like the horror. If they can dip into that Resident Evil world, Alan Wake world, that could be a great interstitial thing for them as well. And I just think they want an Assassin's Creed for every genre almost. Just wait for Assassin's Creed All-Stars, which is a sports soccer game, tied in like Mario All-Stars or something. Or you might have a fighting game where all the assassins fight all the Templars, Street Fighter style. Ubisoft are going all out. We know they're going to double down on Assassin's Creed. That's been confirmed. They're increasing their staffing teams, and it is essentially just the big Ubisoft brand at the moment. So I don't think Mirage and Red will have too much connected other than story tissue. And I think that's good for Ubisoft. I'd rather they diverged and we got different iterations. And if you don't like the style of Odyssey, then just wait for the next story one like Mirage. If you don't like that, then maybe wait for the next side-scrolling one like we had China, Russia, and whatever the third one was in the side-scrolling action. If you want a pirate game, you'll have to wait for Skull and Bones because that ain't coming out anytime soon.
Yeah, Skull and Bones is not coming out. Like, I think I'm officially done caring, giving Skull and Bones any sort of chance at this point. The fact that all they had was, admittedly, it was a good performance with a sea shanty, but there's nothing extra really told about the game, and then there was, it's just another bit. It was like, it's done. Like, for me, I can't see a world where this comes out and is a hit. I think that just conceptually that game is just not going to work at this point.
I have no more comment to say.
Yeah, they're struggling. It feels like they're just struggling to get something playable out there.
I think they've already moved on. I think looking at the rest of the showcase, looking at Avatar, looking at Star Wars Outlaws, and Mirage, looking forward, I think Skull and Bones has literally been left in the dry dock, and it's a case of like, get it out, move on, Ubisoft.
There's rumours, I think, is it with Singapore they've got a deal with, so they can't actually even cancel it?
Yeah, it's the Singapore government funded it somehow, so I'm guessing that a lot of the game takes place maybe in and around Singapore, which makes sense when it comes to pirates. We've all seen the Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End movie.
It's an interesting way to get it away from just the Caribbean setting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else stand out for you that we saw at the showcase? You mentioned Prince of Persia. I know we touched on it from the it was at Summer Game Fest technically, wasn't it? We just saw a deeper dive this time around.
Yeah, 2D side-scrolling Metroidvania Prince of Persia game. I think it looks. I think same. I came under a bit of heat. I don't actually know why. I haven't actually seen it any myself. I'm guessing it's kind of linked to the Sands of Time remake, where it's come under a bit of criticism. But Sands of Time they're still getting worked on it. They basically restarted that game. I don't really have much to say. I think this looks good.
Yeah, hopefully we see. And not too long to wait, realistically.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else major I want to... I mean, Division Resurgence, it's a Division mobile game. Fill your boots. X-Defiance.
Graphically just kind of looks like the original Division, which, if you're a Division fan, if you want to take it on the go, that's cool. Again, I said at the beginning of the show, like I've really been enjoying using my phone and my backbone together. And maybe if I get into the Division, it's like, you know what, I don't want to use touchscreen controls, but they have already confirmed it will be playable using the controller inputs. It could just mean I've got a portable Division game on the go with me.
Yeah,
and if it somehow links in with whatever the next Division game looks like, that could work quite nice for just an on the go moving around.
My concern is it is a free to play game, which means they're going to monetize somehow.
Yeah.
And they haven't talked about that yet.
Yeah.
So monetization could be perfectly innocent, or it could be horrendous. That is going to be, for me, the deal breaker on that game. How are you monetizing this? I would rather them just go, it's 30 quid, just buy the game. But that doesn't really sell on mobile, so... Or, could do something interesting. Ubisoft Plus, you just get the game without any sort of monetization bullshit in there.
If only the world worked that way.
Yeah.
But
it could do.
Do you think we'll see another Ubisoft Forward before the year's out? Or do we think this is them done till next summer now? Because usually we had like 2 or 3 a year, right? And then it seems to have like slowed the pace right down after they haven't done too well.
What would you want to see, really, at another Ubisoft Forward? I'm thinking
Splinter Cell.
Splinter Cell could be there. That could be
Beyond
your
Good
big,
and Evil.
That could be your bigger. Nah, that's Vaporware.
Rayman. Division Heartlands.
I think Rayman's unlikely because the Rayman team's on Prince of Persia.
Yeah, true. I thought Division Heartlands should have been out by now, or if not in the next month or two. Like this summer was what they kind of pigeonholed for it, and we got Resurgence instead. So I'm curious to know where that's at.
I'd like to see one. I'm just trying to figure out, is there enough content there to warrant a Ubisoft Forward, or could some of this be offloaded to some of the Game Awards?
Well, we do have Gamescom in August in Germany, so it could be, and Jeff Keighley is often there for that.
Do we need another forward, or could this just be sprinkled across the other things? Like Skull and Bones, I think needs another showing this year where it commits to whatever that game is, just getting out the door.
Commits to a date.
It's
interesting.
Defiant, probably similar, really. Although that game seems to be going through beta, getting good rumours coming out of the beta. Mm-hmm. I still don't see any difference between it and Call of Duty, from what I can see. But we'll that's yet to be seen.
In terms of all the showcases, though, isn't it kind of weird to think we've also not seen anything yet from EA or Activision this year? Well, we've had not E3 seasons finished now. We know we're getting a Call of Duty this year because it's Activision. We know we're getting the next remake of FIFA, which is EA Sports FC. And because neither of them had a showcase, I mean, Activision usually don't. They usually do just go at something. We've heard nothing from like Rockstar. Warner Brothers were quite light on the feet aside from Mortal Kombat. And I think as much as this has felt like a hectic couple of weeks of announcements and reveals, there's still a lot of the industry out there who've been very quiet this summer. And it's great as a gamer to think like, oh, we still actually don't really know everything that's out. Isn't Crash Team Rumble out like this week as well? I've just remembered talking of Activision. Yeah, one of my favourite franchises of all time has a game out this week, and I don't give 2 shits about it.
It's with Activision, they've got basic Call of Duty. They are still doing some stuff with Crash, trying to see. Almost feels like cash grabby stuff, to be honest.
Crash grab.
The Blizzard stuff tends to just be on its own thing. Like
they have Diablo, to be fair.
They have Diablo's the big thing, but that's big enough to kind of stand on its own legs. Likewise as World of Warcraft. Likewise as StarCraft.
Should I play Diablo? Should Diablo be the game I jump into next? Never played a Diablo game before, and I'm seeing everyone I follow in the games industry seems to be having a blast with it. Have you ever played Diablo before?
Yeah, I've played Diablo 3 and 2.
Is it a Chris-type game?
I don't... It could be.
Because I've seen people say they've never played Diablo before, and they're absolutely loving Diablo 4, so I'm like, oh shit, that could be me.
It's not a game that I think would be a natural Chris game, but that doesn't mean it could not become. You could jump into it and really fall in love with it. It's like quite horror themed in terms of its world and the lore going on. It's an action RPG. I mean, the original Diablo games you could literally play it with a mouse, not even a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah.
So I always, in my mind, there's still kind of PC games that you can play on console. Yeah. Because it's Blizzard.
There's been loads of like big reviews and marketing campaign come out for it.
Yeah.
It's got an 86 on Metacritic. Have you seen the funny advertisements where where you're going to Montreal, and because of Canada, America's also on fire, and there was pictures of New York where the sky was like blazing orange.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that at all.
No. Have you seen the marketing campaign where it's like all the sky's like fire orange, and then there's a big billboard for Diablo and it says, "Hey New York, welcome to hell," and it's like it looks. It's so
I'm not
funny
sure.
though.
It's funny, but I'm not. If you're there living in New York, trapped in your house because you're getting like warnings, don't go outside, and you see that billboard, that might be a bit of a kick in the teeth.
It's also funny though. I also saw one in Manchester last week, which is like "Welcome to Hell, Manchester," and I was like, kind of works for different reasons. But yeah, Diablo, close ties to Xbox, and in a weird future, Richie, this could be a Game Pass game if they can ever get the APK. Sounds like a wrestler's finishing move. Oh my god, he's done the APK. It does sound
like an app for Android.
It does. You're right. But yeah, Diablo 4.
Talking about Xbox, this is an Xbox show, not a Ubisoft show. So let's talk about the Xbox One. Is it dead, Chris?
I think it's been dead for quite some time. Just
on arrival,
on arrival, yeah, definitely with that damn camera attachment. I mean, all jokes aside, it did terribly. Phil Spencer I think everybody at Xbox will admit, and Phil quite recently has admitted, they lost that generation disastrously. It
grew into the generation, but it was well behind for most of it. Until Game Pass. Game Pass shifted it. I think really did. That was a bit of a paradigm shift for the Xbox One. And then it kind of took off after that point. But, yeah. So this is the news that Xbox Game Studios head Matt Booty has revealed that Microsoft is no longer developing first-party games for Xbox One.
Which it shouldn't come as a shock, right?
No.
I mean, we're nearly 10 years detached. Like, we are, actually. This November will be the anniversary of the launch.
Are we 3 years into the series generation?
Yeah, we will be, yeah.
So, yeah, for me, I think it's time. I know there's a lot of Xbox One. I see people on, on Facebook and stuff saying, will this game come to Xbox One, that sort of stuff. It's like, it is time to let that go. I think the same for the PS4. It's time to move on beyond it. We've had that crossover generation period. Now as a gamer, I want to see the platform, not just Xbox, Sony as well, embrace the next generation of gaming and really put the current consoles through the paces.
I think if you look back at the Xbox One, total sales as of June 2020, 50.53 million worldwide.
Yeah.
So
what's PS4?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
PS4
sales worldwide. 300 something. I'm guessing 300.
No, it's not 300. The Wii and the PlayStation 2 are only on 115.
All right. I'm guessing probably
PS4
about 80 then.
Worldwide sales. Unfortunately, Google didn't give me any on. PS4, 117 million. So almost over 2 to 1.
Yeah, if you're going head to head through a generation, it's hard to not say the Xbox One lost that generation. It's like, yeah, you're only about 90 million sales. 90 million? 90 million sales behind.
Yeah, but we had that update a short while ago, didn't we? That the Xbox Series X and S has sold up to nearly 2 million units in its first chunk, which I think shocked a few people because a lot of people thought it was higher. And Xbox haven't reported on numbers since the unfortunate start of the Xbox One. However, I'd imagine a lot of people who have transitioned over probably already have now. Similar to like PlayStation users, if you're a big PlayStation gamer, other than maybe you're more casual who aren't that involved, who aren't fussed on having the latest and greatest, maybe only play like FIFA every year or something. Like we have a couple of friends who they always have a PlayStation, but they only really get it when they really, really need to, or their old one gives up the ghost. Similar thing for Xbox One users. I think as soon as the Series X and S was announced, any hardcore Xbox fans probably jumped over or moved to cloud or moved to PC in some form. So they're in the ecosystem. They maybe just don't have the console. And
this is one of my thoughts as well. And you have to think about the geopolitical situation over the last 2-3 years. It's not been great in terms of people's, I know in the UK especially, not been great for people's personal finance. And if you're looking at all the games that have been coming out, I mean, bear in mind, this story is Microsoft are now announcing they're no longer making Xbox One games. we've been in that crossover period. So if you're like a bit short on cash and you're looking at it and going, what is the benefit of upgrading to the Series S or X at that time when I can play all the games on my Xbox One still, and I can just wait for the price drop? I can totally get that. So you might actually see this accelerate, the sales accelerate going forward as people have been waiting for that shift, waiting for the reason going. Starfield could absolutely be the game that kickstarts this generation for Microsoft. Because if that's what we've been kind of feel like we've been waiting for since we've had ours, we're waiting for the generation to kickstart.
Yeah, and again, it's no surprise. PlayStation technically have done that already now with, I think, Horizon was maybe their last dual-platform game, if I'm not mistaken.
They were going in the generation ahead of Xbox.
Oh, no, it would be Ragnarok. Sorry, Ragnarok was the last one to come out. And bar, like, cross-platform games, like, they've already confirmed Minecraft will be backwards support. It's like the really big popular games will still be there, like Fortnite and stuff, no doubt. But naturally, we always transition away to the next generation. And, yeah, I think it's about time. We're coming up on a year. As we've said, we've got a couple of streams planned for the channel later on in the year. I want to look at Rise, Son of Rome. Like some of the launch titles, I think it's worthwhile us jumping into. I think you and me should check out Insomniac's game. Can't remember. I'm somebody blanking out. No. The Xbox exclusive.
I think we should check out Spider-Man.
Sunset Overdrive. There we go. My brain got there eventually. Because there's a lot of titles that honoured the Xbox One at launch, and unfortunately, due to the botched launch, they didn't get the love they deserved. I think Rise has a cult following. Sunset Overdrive has so much DNA in what made Spider-Man great. So it's it's worth checking out.
We've got our channel's anniversary coming up in September. What I think I might do is on the run up to 1 year of XPass, we'll do maybe we'll plan another extended live stream, an extended community stream. And I'll ask our Discord description down below for what you want us to play Xbox games. Like what are the best Xbox game? We'll do a kind of showcase of games where not presenting them, but we're just going to play them with you guys. Might do that as an extended stream.
Yeah,
we'll figure it out as we go. It's still way off. This is episode 34, so we've got 18 weeks.
Plenty of time.
Yeah, plenty of time. Starfield, Chris. It is designed to only be in 30 frames per second. So first of all, I know you're pretty much fine. You're not that hardcore. It has to be 60. What are your general thoughts about this? Do you think that 60 should be seen as the benchmark we're aiming for? Where it seems like Starfield has been designed to be 30. It doesn't feel like they've missed the target, where it felt like Redfall missed the target.
It doesn't bother me at all. I'm absolutely hyped for Starfield. I think that direct that we had after the showcase was it did everything it needed to do. The biggest thing for me is they confirmed the whole game's playable in third person, which immediately it made me stand up and go, okay, hang on a minute. I can now play this entire massive open world in my preferred method, and I think more games could do this. I would absolutely love it if games like Far Cry came out, or Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, or just anything, Halo to a degree as well, and just switch between them, because we've seen it with Grand Theft Auto. It's obviously just a matter of perspective. GTA 5 had I think it was probably a few years back, announced a first-person mode, sorry. And all it is a case of is obviously you're restructuring the camera so it's no longer behind someone or over the shoulder. It's just, you just drag the camera a little bit forward and add a reticle, and obviously the visualizations need to go with it. But in terms of the way the world works, it's quite. I think I would absolutely adore Cyberpunk if it came out with a third-person mode. But there's just something for me, those floaty hands in front of you and the floaty gun and everything. It's been done so long, and you don't get a feel of. I don't know. There's just something about. I would still love first-person shooters, absolutely. But I've said many times in the show, there's just something about seeing your character in that world which makes it more involved for me. And Starfield, the reason it's locked at 30 is because of the scope of it. And I think now we've seen the direct. Anyone who's watched that direct, you've got 45 minutes of a deep dive into everything this game can do. I think 30 is a fair mark to draw the line and say, look, it does so much, we have to lock it. He did say lock to 30 as well. On consoles, it's locked to 30. Todd Howard specifically says, I'll quote,
always these huge open worlds, fully dynamic, hyper detail, where anything can happen, and we do want to do that. It's 4K in the X, it's 1440 on the S. We do lock it at 30 because we want that fidelity, we want all that stuff. We don't want to sacrifice any of it. On the consoles, it's locked to 30. That there's still scope, I think, there from what he said for it to be unlocked on PC.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Power can go well beyond the consoles if you've got the money to do it.
Adding to that, reading from a Digital Foundry quote, the question is what frame rate allows you to hit your design goals for the game. In the case of Starfield, it's clear that this is an open world or even open universe game with item permanence, AI simulations, and a lot of interlocking systems to create an immersive experience. With all of the CPU demands that this sort of game entails, dropping the resolution might not have had much of an effect on the overall frame rate. That's the key bit I wanted to take out there. As a developer, you may as well crank up the visuals and embrace 30 frames per second output for an overall more consistent output.
Yeah.
So for me, that's saying, look, this isn't we push up to 4K and it would massively impact the resolution. This feels more like CPU bound rather than GPU bound in terms of performance.
Yeah.
So if, because of all the interlocking systems, things like AI using to generate the worlds and generate them quickly, if that's having a massive input on the frame rate, more so than the visual fidelity, it feels like, yeah, you might as well target the visual fidelity.
Yeah, and I think Phil Spencer obviously came out, and they've had to do Todd Howard. They've had to do these interviews because naturally, after the botched launch and failure of everything to do with Redfall, quite frankly, from development to launch to anything, I believe he did say about like they were targeting future games, and I think the question was always going to rise with Starfield was, well, after Redfall, is Starfield 4K 60? And then they've obviously came out, no, it's not. And there'll be loads of people who like kind of get up in arms about that. But the reality is, we don't make the games, we just play the games. And I believe the developers have the best interests of the game at heart. Like it's their love and attention and care that's gone into making, what did they say, like 25 years in the making for Starfield? Yeah. Everything to get to this. You're telling me the devs, if they could just flick a switch or do something magical behind the scenes to get it 4K 60, they wouldn't do it? Absolutely not. They test the games vigorously. It's their careers, it's their livelihoods. They're going to do it through the best one. And Phil has quoted in an interview with Jeff Grubb's Giant Bomb podcast, saying that he doesn't want to restrict developers. It's a creative field. He wants to give them the creative tools to make the best decisions, and the game will be what it is. I think Starfield's going to be a great game, and we've loved the reception today. I don't want to force specifications on every game before they even start. So again, game from what I saw, I'm not a frame rate guy, but you know what? I thought Starfield looks that good, and it's that vast and expansive. If you tell me it has to be this way to run the game, then fine. If they had to scale back the plants and stuff just to make the frame rate faster, there'd only be the same amount of people arguing, oh, it's not as expansive as we were promised. Oh, you can't do as many things as we were promised. But it's 4K 60, so what are you complaining about now? Internet's always got things to complain about. I think it looks gorgeous, and I'm more hyped for Starfield than I ever have been after that direct. So
the more I'm hearing about this game, it feels more like this is going to be the new template for what a open world game will be going forward. It feels like the first of a truly new generation. Things like the way they're using AI to help build the worlds and populate them and stuff. It feels like maybe this game, the reason it can't be 60 is just because the hardware isn't there. This feels like this is no matter what they do, if they either need to drop the scope of the game and therefore compromise on what they want to do with this game, or hit an arbitrary target. And if the game plays well, I do agree. Like, I think 60 is better. I think for most games coming out now, 60 should be the target, especially like first-person shooters. However, I think Starfield, there's so much they're talking about in terms of the back end and the way this world works and all the systems, how they interlock. It feels like they've got a solid justification while 30 is good enough. 30 can be good enough. It might be jarring if you went from playing something like Doom Eternal at 120 frames per second, then close that, immediately booted up Starfield. But you get over that quite quickly, to be honest. I think this is going to be fine. There's going to be people going, it's only 30 frames per second, not playing it. But I feel like you're just getting in your own way and that stuff. Like,
absolutely.
if you play it and you think it's janky and doesn't play well and you've given it a chance, then I think I tried it didn't work for me. I really think it needed to be 60. That's fine. I don't think you should ever take the stance of I'm not touching it. I think they're making the right move addressing it now as well. Just get it out there. You don't want a Redfall situation where it's on the eve of the game coming out, because then it looks like you've failed, where this is like, no, this is our design. Like,
let it simmer.
Yeah. But anyway, let's move on to the extended showcase. So after the Xbox showcase, Xbox had another showcase.
As you do.
Yep, as you do. To be honest, this one kind of caught me off guard, and I haven't actually had time to watch it. Have you had time to watch this showcase, Chris?
I watched half of it as the week's gone on a little bit. It was more just to give us a deep dive into what was shown at the normal showcase, and it's probably really smart that they separate these things out. If you want to get into the weeds with these things, the extended showcase is there. If you're not fussed, you just want to see the big tentpole announcements, then watch the main showcase. If you're not fussed on any of that, just read the news. A couple of announcements came out of it, a couple of new DLC updates and behind the scenes. The point I got up to in the showcase was Obsidian talking about Avowed, so I didn't get too far into it. But the biggest thing for me that I got was Keanu Reeves being interviewed. It was just super cool watching him talk about the game and his character and Johnny and the DLC, working with Idris Elba, that kind of stuff. High on Life DLC. High on Knife was announced, which looks like basically a horror spin-off where I'm guessing Knifey from in the game, who's our lovable Australian friend of Knife who wants to stab and kill everything. It looks like they're going to go into like a darker first-person horror, essentially. The trailer doesn't really give much away other than dark corridors and creatures that you're chasing, and Knifey's narrating it. Interesting one, this game, because of course there's lots of stuff going on behind the scenes with the creator Justin Roiland, and he's no longer part of the creative process for the High on Life team. They're going to continue on. So this DLC probably won't have the same voice of the main protagonist you're familiar with, which is maybe why it's Knifey picking up and doing the slack.
At the time the Justin Roiland stuff came out, there's like they kind of already were distancing themselves, saying he actually didn't have that huge amount of creative input. He was like, he had a bit, but he was actually more of a voice actor in some ways. I don't know whether that is just to kind of, we could just pull ourselves as far away from this guy as possible.
Yeah, I find that hard to believe based on the comedy and the styling of the game. It's very much his comedy, so...
Yeah. I mean, the comedy is clearly inspired by him.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean he's written the entire game.
Yeah, but High on Knife could be really cool. If they get the horror and comedy, that could work. And again, High on Life was one of the best received games for Game Pass and Xbox last year. It was like a nice surprise hit just before Christmas. How about you looking at the news, Richie? Was there anything that stood out from the extended showcase for you?
Not really. So this is why I'm glad this was an extended showcase. And one of the reasons why I haven't been as motivated to find time to watch it. There's DLC for Fallout 76, Once in a Blue Moon, comes out June 20th. Hi-Fi Rush gets an arcade challenge update on July the 5th.
Yes, that's cool. Yeah, I like that.
There's a lot of other stuff. Blizzard, Obsidian talked about Avowed. We'll talk about that in a second, and it's its own section. Lamplighters League arrives on Game Pass in October. The first Descendant launches later this year. In cross-play beta is coming in August. There was more stuff about Towerborn coming at Game Pass Day 1. Plasmaphobia launches on Series X in August. Exoprimal gets another gameplay trailer. This Exoprimal seems to be everywhere at the moment. I still don't fully know what the game is, though. Do you have in your mind, this is what Exoprimal is?
No, because I thought it was Dino Crisis when they first teased it. Exoprimal, I think it's one that'll probably find an audience, but I can't see it being around forever.
I mean, it's coming out. It's coming to Game Pass in July, so I think it's got a good chance. We might play it on the stream, probably, if it's a Game Pass game. We'll see when it comes out and stuff.
There was another dinosaur shoe game which I was more interested in. I know it was Extinction or something we looked at. Or Primal Carnage, I can't really remember. There was one or two games that came out. It was like I get to hunt velociraptors and stuff as a first person shooter. And I don't know if it ever got out of beta or not yet, potentially. But Exoprimal isn't one of them for me. But I think Hi-Fi Rush's DLC is probably the best thing. Keeps it in the game at the maybe new game of the year category a little bit, extended the life of it. And I need to get back to Hi-Fi Rush actually because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I played I did a first look at it, and I haven't really played beyond that. But yeah, I don't think there was anything. I mean, this is an extended showcase. This is supplementary to the main showcase. So this is where you're getting your DLC announcements. It's where there's a handful of indie games announced here. There's some more dev diaries into stuff like Hellblade 2. So another look at Lies of P. But if you want to have a look at Lies of P, we have a first look on the channel. No, we don't. I did record some stuff for Lies of P. But no, I have
Maybe
played. I have played the Lies of P demo. We haven't done content on it. We are looking at potentially doing a first look on launch.
We
That's
spoke
why
about
I
it on
didn't.
last week's show, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing the first look of the demo, but then with it coming to Game Pass, I thought I'd rather wait for the launch.
Yeah.
Where I did the opposite with Final Fantasy 16, because I'm not going to be here for the launch. Yeah, and I also won't own the game. Anyway, we've got an updated roadmap for Game Pass. Well, for Xbox Studios in general, which I think it's just interesting to have a quick flick through it. So 2023 so far, we've had Hi-Fi Rush GoldenEye, Age of Empires Definitive Edition, console version. Ghostwire Tokyo has come out, Minecraft Legends come out, Redfall has come out. Probably shouldn't, but it did. And then for the rest of the year in this, we've got Starfield, Forza Motorsport, Ara History Untold, and Age of Empires 4. And then we've got 2024 being absolutely... Well, actually, it's not as stacked as it looks. It feels small, unless this is all that I'm looking at. Avowed, Hellblade 2, Towerborn, Flight Simulator 2024. And then we've got in the upcoming section Everwild, The Outer Worlds 2, Project Mara, Fable, Age of Mythology Retold, Perfect Dark, State of Decay 3, South of Midnight, Clockwork Revolution, Contraband, Indiana Jones, Gears, Elder Scrolls 6, Kojima's game. On top of the ongoing stuff, Minecraft, Sea of Thieves, Forza 5, Fallout 76, Elder Scrolls Online, Minecraft Dungeons, Halo Infinite, Microsoft Flight Simulator, which you'd expect to be replaced by 2024, Age of Empires 2, Age of Empires 3, Age of Empires 4, Grounded, Halo, and State of Decay. Absolutely stacked coming forward, so...
Good roadmap. Yeah, it kind of highlights some of the stuff that they didn't show off at the showcase. They announced Perfect Dark in, 2020? Seen nothing about it since. I'm surprised it wasn't at the showcase. Indiana Jones, can't believe there was nothing at the showcase. That was one of my big hopes that I wanted to see ahead of it, especially with the movie coming out this month.
Phil Spencer has been hinting that there's stuff that is coming 2024 that they haven't showcased yet. It might just be a case of... I hope it's kind of one of them situations where what they've showcased so far is aimed for first half of 2024, and they're going to do another showcase at some point where they're going to focus on the second half of the year, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure Age of Mythology was supposed to be the end of this year, so we shall see. But a good roadmap, nonetheless. Good couple of listed games in there, both new and old, and of course you've always got the supported ongoing projects, which is great to see.
Age of Mythology might be one of them that does better not at an Xbox showcase, but something like a Game Awards. A game's kind of more generalised thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a known quantity as well. It's just a better version of it, so it might not even need that.
Yeah, and it's also... It's more of a PC game rather than a console game. So there might be that kind of thought process. Maybe it doesn't make sense here, where most people watching the Xbox showcase, I think, of the console element of Xbox more than the PC games. But let's talk, Chris, about Clockwork Revolution, because the devs have come out and saying that it's basically not a Bioshock clone.
It is, though.
Yeah, it is.
It is, though. Yeah, I've seen them saying we didn't intend to copy it, but anyone who works in the industries knows what Bioshock is, pretty much. So I know it's more RPG. They said it's got like more stats, detail, weapon selection, all that kind of stuff. But that's not what people are talking about when they're talking about Bioshock. They're talking about the aesthetics, and like, again, it's no disservice. That's great. It's a compliment to the game that it looks like Bioshock, and if it has that kind of any kind of gravitas to add to a brand new IP, then that's what you want. So
yeah, and it almost feels like the stuff that Brian Fargo, one of the developers, has been saying. It's got deep RPG, full character creation, branching dialogue systems, awesome steampunk weapons, and dark humor. He also tweets, important to know that Clockwork Revolution is the true RPG with all the stats, crunchy details, and deep reactivity that we're known for. It feels like, no, it's not Bioshock, it's an RPG. And it's like, And I'm sat there like going, but that could just be the next evolution of what Bioshock is.
Well, until we see what Cloud Chamber are working on with the fourth entry in the series, then who knows? But you've never played Bioshock, so I'd be interested to see like what your take was on this, like with a fresh set of eyes, not biased because of the workings of Bioshock.
I played a little bit of Bioshock, but it was at a time when I had a load of other stuff, and I just because I think it came to PS Plus years ago. And I don't know, it just didn't vibe with me at that moment in time. You know, one of them go like, you know what, I'll come back to this later.
Yeah.
And then you don't come back to it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, looks good. Rattle through a few quick ones. There's been update to the series UI. It seems to be this is a constantly ongoing conversation that never seems to actually make its way out. Like, and I do think the whole UI needs a massive overhaul. Your thoughts, Chris, and about the UI?
I mean, UI should be just clean, I think. The best one that I've enjoyed in recent years was the PlayStation 4 interface. I think it was clean, it was stripped back. That's all I need to know. Give me a nice...
enough customizability that you could do what you want with it.
Yeah, give me a nice slick layout, just a couple of squares or rectangles with some cover art, clear titles, just make sure the fonts don't clash with the cover art so you can actually see what's being shown off. And give me, the relevant folders. All I need is really like games, media, settings, storefronts. Like, I don't need that much.
I find it messy and difficult to navigate around it at the moment. Like, how do I find what's in the store? How do I find what's in the Game Pass? What's on cloud gaming? And like... what's even installed on my Xbox? It just feels messy. What I liked about the PlayStation 4 is you just had this very simple bar. You could set up folders for managing games, which I think is very important for cloud gaming, with things not necessarily being installed. So you go, here's my folder for RPGs. Put all my RPGs in there. I know you can do that at the moment, but it just feels like a poor implementation. But yeah, I hope it does. I hope that this gets out soon. Let's talk about Avowed, Chris. Avowed is the scale of Avowed will be closer to the Outer Worlds than Skyrim, according to Obsidian. More focused on depth than breadth.
Avowed's a funny one for me because the showcase actually made me less interested in it.
Oh, interesting.
Is there a truck reversing near you?
Oh, it's busy street. It shouldn't be a busy street, but it is.
It sounded like it was right outside your window there. In terms of Avowed, it's... I don't know. There was something to do with the trailer, which I'm not going to lament on it, but I think they need to do more to pull me back in. So saying it's a smaller focus thing, really, really good. Outer Worlds did a lot from a visual standpoint, and I know a lot of people were saying, oh, there's not as many hours in this RPG as I'd expect to see. But I think Obsidian nailed it on the head where saying, it's going to have a lot more depth and breadth than necessarily just like length and size. Doesn't sound like I'm talking about a video game there. But one thing they said they wanted to do is make your companions feel like they're integrated into the story and not just like a side character. And I think that goes a long way to like character development and making the world feel lived in and rich. But I don't really have any more to say on that in terms of the scale. It's good to know, but they didn't really showcase anything off at the showcase other than a couple of fights, so I want to see more.
Yeah, I mean, it still just looks like a modern take on Skyrim. I like the fact that it's more focused, it's smaller and deeper, because I think there's been a tendency over the last console generation to make worlds bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I found they just ended up, for me, like, one, incredibly time-consuming. You spend most of your time just travelling, not actually playing interesting content.
Yeah.
Or you're just fast-travelling everywhere. And then the stuff in there isn't that well developed. Sometimes it's just in there. It's stuff to fill up a world rather than interesting content. Yeah. So they're saying the right things for me in terms of open world. I don't think every open world RPG needs to be 100 hours. It can be 40.
Yeah.
I would prefer that, because I tend to fizzle out of big games a lot. I did a bit with Tears of the Kingdom, actually.
Yeah,
that was in part intentional of putting it down, though. But
I found that with The Witcher 3 again. Like, I think I've said on the show, I've went back to it like several times. I went back with the remaster. I got further than I've ever got before, but then when other stuff came knocking at the door, and you think I need to put something aside, and it's so big in scope, I just don't have the time for it.
And The Witcher 3 for me does it better than most in terms of populating the world with interesting content.
Oh yeah, completely.
You don't get in The Witcher. You never really get a miscellaneous NPC sends you on a quest to go to a random location to kill some bandits and comes back and gives you some gold, which you basically don't ever use. You don't really get that in The Witcher sort of stuff, and that's one of my criticisms usually with Ubisoft, where a lot of the side quests just feel completely, utterly pointless. But anyway, let's move on, because Phil Spencer has... he's constantly... I say he's in the press again, but he's constantly talking. This time he's talking about the relationship Microsoft has had with some Japanese developers, but he admits that more work needs to go into the Square Enix relationship.
In terms of just getting games?
Yeah, pretty much. He says, got to get on a plane again. I think he's probably sat there, watched the trailer for Rebirth and went, well, that's not coming to Xbox, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's one of those exclusivity things where you can't win if you get them. Seemingly Xbox can't win when they don't get them either. They've obviously got better stuff. Like he's referencing Atlas when we joked at the beginning of the show about all the Persona titles coming across, and that was fantastic. They've worked with Capcom quite a lot, and I think with Game Pass, it's more about budget. And I think Phil's referenced in the past where PlayStation basically just pay out more for these Square Enix ones. So naturally, if you're Square Enix, like you're going to take the bigger paycheck when it comes to these third-party relationships. And because of that relationship has gone on for so long now, Square Enix titles, especially Final Fantasy, are so closely associated to the PlayStation brand. It just seems like that's going to continue to happen unless something breaks the mold, and that might just be Xbox cracking out that checkbook and putting the money down and paying a lot more than PlayStation, like start a bidding war almost for these game entries. And if they're that committed to it, they might need to. We've seen them slinging their money around to acquire Activision and such for absorbent amounts of money. So why not siphon a little bit of that off and get some Square Enix games? I
don't necessarily think it just needs to be them throwing a bag of cash at it. What I think they need to do is, which I think is something they are really working on, is increase their install base. They need to expand Xbox to a point where Square Enix are not willing to take the bag of cash from PlayStation, or that bag of cash has to be so bloody big that PlayStation don't want to pay it.
Yeah.
The fact that Square Enix are looking at Xbox ecosystem, looking at the bag of cash from PlayStation, going, it makes more sense for us as a business to take the bag of cash. That's something that needs to be addressed, I think. And yeah, I think developing your relationship with them, showing them the great stuff, getting them more on board in the Xbox ecosystem. Part of it could just be Microsoft breaking into Japan better. That could do it. And things like their relationship with Atlas. That relationship with Atlas could go a long way to their relationship with Square Enix.
Yeah.
If they go, look, this is how well Persona 3 Remake's done when they've got numbers on that. Like, showcasing these, like, Japanese, very much games that come out of Japan, very Japanese focus, and going, now they're doing numbers on Xbox in the West. Square, you need to stop ignoring this console. It's just that you need to find a way to... Sorry, just punched my microphone. Yeah, just break them barriers that seem to be in place.
Yeah, and it seems like it's working because they've got Capcom announced new IP as well at the showcase, so they're obviously making big strides, and it did go a long way to flesh out that showcase. It's just all time and money, and I'd like to think Square are more open-minded to it. I don't think they have necessarily a problem with Xbox. It just seemingly is they have a better relationship with
it's a business
PlayStation
decision.
And Nintendo. Yeah, completely. And I'd love to live in a world where we get these games all over. Like, there could be a world where you get this Final Fantasy Rebirth, Richie, could be on Game Pass if the negotiation lands right there, but seemingly it's a PlayStation exclusive. So something happened many, many moons ago to get that to work. And all jokes aside, I believe Forspoken, the PlayStation exclusive that launched this January, probably was just part of a contract deal for the Final Fantasy exclusivity. It's like, look, if you want Final Fantasy exclusive on PS5, you got to take Forspoken as well. I'm like, well, what is Forspoken? Tell me about it. It's like, doesn't matter what it is, you got to take it if you want this exclusivity deal. And PlayStation were like, yeah, you know what, we'll put it out, we'll market it. If it's good or bad, it doesn't matter because we're getting Final Fantasy and that'll pay its dividends in returns. And seemingly it does because the hype for those games is insane.
Yeah, I think they just need to get to the point where Square look at Xbox ecosystem, as I said, they need to, that bag of money from Sony needs to just not be as enticing. They need to, we could take this bag of money, but then we're missing out on this entire marketplace. We don't want to do that anymore. That's just what they need to do. But Chris,
Agreed.
Can people fly?
In airplanes, they can, yes.
Glad to hear, because I'm about to do that.
Yeah.
So Outriders Studio, People Can Fly, apparently working on a new project with Microsoft on Microsoft IP. What do you think this could be?
Well, it's an interesting one. So People Can Fly, for those who don't know, they're the developers who made Outriders. But funnily enough, there was another article that came out this week saying they still haven't been paid their royalties for by Square Enix, funnily enough, for Outriders. So they were the publisher. And again, Square being funny with their money. But in terms of what they could be working on, People Can Fly many moons ago of work with Microsoft closely. The budget reportedly is supposed to be between 30 to 50 million, which thanks to the people in our Discord chat, we got a good understanding of kind of what that means in terms of scope and projects. I don't really know. My
it's
guess
control
would be,
money, basically.
Yeah, my guess would be Gears, because they've worked on Gears games before. They co-developed Gears of War Judgment, and I guess I kind of don't know. It's like, if they are working on Gears, I'd be worried that there isn't a Gears game currently already in production, like ready to go maybe next year or the year after, because it's been a while. But it does say IP, so it could be anything, really.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at what Outriders, third-person shooter. It didn't do well, claiming it seems to haven't made any money out of it, but there's actually a good game in there.
I think it's a great game.
Marketed completely wrong. They kept saying it's not a games as a service and showing everything about it that makes it look like a game as a service. And so I think there was just that mixed feelings about it, but people have played it. And then there was stuff like on launch it was buggy, and there was a lot of stuff in Outriders that kind of led to fall off a cliff, unfortunately.
Great Game Pass game though.
Yeah, great Game Pass game. 30-50 million budget. I mean, some big games that's absolutely dropping the pond, but then you look at Control, when that was in that sort of budget range, and that was an amazing game.
Yeah.
So you can make an amazing game for that. Called Project Maverick. I don't know if that leads any direction in terms of what IP. I'm leaning towards Gears. Based on what I've playing Outriders, and based on what Gears being a third-person shooter, Outriders being a third-person shooter, it feels like a good fit. And if no one's currently working on a Gears game, maybe who's the original devs of Gears?
The Coalition, isn't it?
The Coalition.
Yeah.
What are they working on at the moment again?
Probably a Gears of War game.
Yeah, but if they're doing the whole like kind of Naughty Dog-esque thing where it's like, no, we're done with that, we want to move on to something else. Like Guerrilla did. They moved on from Killzone to Horizon. Like, they might be doing that kind of things. Like, we're done with Gears. We've done a lot of Gears. We want our team wants to do something different. That leaves the Gears IP open, and People Can Fly. Microsoft might be looking at them and going, well, actually, we think you've got what it takes to make a great Gears game. And then they'll probably end up buying them.
Yeah, that seems to be the way they're going. I mean, if they want to make money, if they're not making money from Square Enix, then where would you go with that?
Yeah.
I just want to clarify as well, it was Epic Games who made the first Gears games, and then Coalition took over from Gears 4, I think. Because I think the Coalition was founded to basically bring Gears in-house at Microsoft.
Yeah.
And Epic Games obviously went on to do Epic Games stuff with Fortnite and whatnot, but... Yeah, so they've had Epic Games, the Coalition, People Can Fly, obviously Splash Damage, of Outcast's fame, worked on one back in the day as well. So it's a shared IP, is Gears of War, which is interesting. You don't often see it that much in the industry.
That kind of strengthens my theory that this is probably Gears. And
yeah, I think it could be.
Yeah.
Codename Project Maverick. Could just be a Top Gun spin-off of Microsoft Flight Simulator, Top Gun DLC.
I did have that thought, but that already exists.
On Flight Simulator, yeah.
Flight
Plus,
Simulator.
I don't think it'd have a budget of 30 to 50 million for a Top Gun game.
If most of it's to get the IP.
I mean, potentially, yeah.
Yeah, got to pay Tom Cruise. Anyway, that's all we have time for this week. Let us know what you think the People Can Fly working on in the comments below, and what you want Chris to play next. We've got Again, this is tomorrow on Talking the PS is going to be my last piece of content for a couple of weeks as I go on holiday. I'll probably be back mid-July. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like the video, sub the channel, all that sort of good stuff. Discord links in the description below. My name's been Richie.
I've been Chris.
Goodbye.